Trekking is not just an activity, it's a profound transformative experience. An entrepreneur by profession and a trekker by passion, Arjun sir started Indiahikes in 2008 with a vision to explore and document new trekking trails. He wanted to solve problems in the mountains and implement sustainable ways of trekking. His biggest dream was, and still is, that everyone must trek because he has seen that trekking transforms lives. From the tender age of 8, Arjun sir embarked on a journey as a passionate trekker, earning immense respect for his knowledge of trekking trails. His contributions to Discover India magazine and captivating talks as a TEDx speaker have solidified his position as a revered authority in the realm of trekking. On this note, let's invite him to dive deep into the world of trekking and share its impact on the human mind, body, and spirit. Please welcome Arjun sir.
How many of you have heard of Indiahikes? Quite a few. How many of you have trekked with Indiahikes? Some of you. How many of you trek otherwise? So today, let me introduce myself. My name is Arjun Majumdar. I'm the founder and CEO of Indiahikes. Now, I have to give you a little backdrop of Indiahikes to tell you about what am I going to speak about today. So, like you saw so many hands being raised up and many of you have been trekking yourselves. Trekking was not like this when I was at your age. Hardly anybody trekked. So few people trekked that I knew most of the people who trekked in our country, who they were and where they were from. That was the result of trekking. And Indiahikes has largely been the organization that has kind of brought trekking from where it was to almost nothing to where it is today in our country. So you name all the greatest treks of our country, the treks that you have heard of, from Rupkund to Rupin Pass to Buran Ghati to the Kashmir Great Lakes, Tarsa Marsa, these are all the Kedarkantra, these are all the very, very famous treks of our country. And all of them have been brought out into our country from obscurity to where it is today, being the most famous trek by Indiahikes. So in this process of bringing out all these great treks of our country, Indiahikes is also India's largest trekking organization. So more than 25,000 people trek with us every year. And outside that, the most systems that you see about trekking that happens in our country, the environmental management system or the safety systems that you see in trekking, has largely been brought about in our country by Indiahikes. The reason I'm giving you this backdrop is that because we have seen thousands and lakhs of trekkers over the last almost a decade and a half, we have gathered a lot of insights and inputs from this very big data that we have. And this is some of the things that I want to talk about because the theme of your talk is very, very interesting, the butterfly effect. And I wanted to show you how these butterfly effects actually work in real life. And I'm going to use some of the examples that we have in our data to show you. Now, I have to take you back many years ago when I was trekking. And when I was trekking, when I was around your age, I found, despite me having trekked for almost 8, 9, 10 years, I would find it very difficult to launch the next expedition of trek with my friends. And the biggest problem of launching these treks was that I didn't know which trek to do. And how do I do it and where do I go? Because after some time I was running out of stock of treks to do. Because the biggest problem was I didn't have enough trekking information. And the common talk between us, my friends and I, would be that, if this is going to be the stage of trekking in our country, then trekking wouldn't grow in our country at all if we didn't have information to trek with, if you didn't know where to trek with and how to trek with. So once upon a time, I was going on a trek with my friends to this beautiful place that you see on the screen, which is called the Rupkund. Now this glacial tarn that you are seeing here is around at 15,750 feet, which is a very, very high altitude in the Himalayas. And we were doing a trek over there, but I was very conscious that when we go on this trek, I wanted to come back and document this trail and make a guide out of it so that people could do this trek on their own. So that they would have the information to do this trek on their own. So that's exactly what I did, is that when I went to this trek and I saw beautiful sceneries around me, I came back and wrote a guide about this trek. Now, this trek had this beautiful and astounding sceneries, just like how you see over here. And when I wrote this guide, I didn't write a guide of about 500 words or 600 words. I wrote a guide which was about 7,500 to 8,000 words, which had every turn, every angle of it that you can think of, which was documented on a trek like this, a very useful guide that I had made. And this guide, when I released it online, it became a sensation. And trekkers, non-trekkers, people across the country started using this guide and telling them that, look, here is a place that I can trek on my own and I can do it myself. Now nowadays you call this word viral, but at that time it was a very big sensation. And the thing is that you must understand the world at that time. The world at that time was not as digitally connected as we are today. And people were using, and it was a new age industries of people who have never stepped into the Himalayas. When I'm talking about a 15,750 feet, you must understand that if you go to Europe, that's where you're hitting the highest limit. Mont Blanc is almost at the same height as this, and Mont Blanc is the highest summit in Europe. And in this kind of locations, people were going trekking, those who have not trekked before, those who don't have prior trekking experience before, and all they were doing was they were using the guide which I had given online, and they were using it to go and do this trek. And it was very empowering, and it was a very different situation that was happening in our country when they were using this guide. And I want to tell you that at that time, I'm talking about 15 years ago, I would get about 3 or 4 emails every day asking me, how do I do this trek? We have read your guide, and how to, can you help us with this? And 3 or 4 emails in a day doesn't look a big number, but if you multiply it by 30 days in a month, I was answering about 150 to 200 emails a month from unknown people from across the country wanting to know how to do this trek on their own. I would help them out and give them some information or whatever it is, despite the information already being there. But you know what, there was a very strange effect which was happening elsewhere. And I started getting phone calls from the local people of that region where this whole trek was. In the contact numbers which you had seen a little while ago, they started contacting me, and mind you, at that time there was no mobile phones. So people would come down to an STD booth to give a call. How many of you have heard of STD booths? पूरा झूठ, कोई तो यूज़ नहीं किया होगा. But anyway, people would come down to an STD booth. और वो STD booth आने के लिए you would have to drive for almost 25-30 kilometers. There's no गाड़ी over there. So you have to come down in most difficult circumstances just to make a phone call to me saying, sir, ये क्या हो रहा है? क्या हो रहा है यहाँ? क्यों इतने लोग आ रहे हैं? And why are people using your name to come and do this trek? And this is an incredible new phenomenon which is happening here. I'm getting a lot of work. I'm very happy. I just called to say thank you. I said, I'm very happy to you. I did nothing. I just put up your name. I made a guide like this. It's online. It's available for people to use. He said, yes, sir, thank you very much. Then again, after a few weeks, I would again get a phone call from this person saying, sir, क्या हो रहा है इधर? चमत्कार हो रहा है इधर. तो मैं तो काम ले रहा हूँ. मैं अभी इतना काम आ रहा है कि मैं दूसरों को भी काम दे रहा हूँ. I'm giving work to others. And I said, sir, आपने ये क्या कर दिया? I said, nothing like that. This guide is there. He said, नहीं sir, वहाँ जो भी आते हैं, whoever comes there, they not only take your name, but they only go in the route which you have suggested. When I tell them there's another trail to do or there is another way to go on the same trek, they're not willing to take it. नहीं, अर्जुन जी ने बताया वही route में लेकर जाना है. So what have you done? I said, nothing. I just put up this guide like that. He said, नहीं sir, हमें इंटरनेट मालूम है, वो तो और कुछ ही हो रहा है. ठीक है. He keeps the phone. Again, after a few weeks, I get another phone call. He said, sir, आप भगवान हो. I said, क्यों? नहीं, मैं आपका तस्वीर और मेरा माता पिता का तस्वीर के साथ बाजू में लगा दिया हूँ. फिर क्यों? और मैंने मेरे बच्चों को प्राइवेट स्कूल में डाल दिया. आपके बच्चों को प्राइवेट स्कूल में डाल दिया मतलब क्या है? But matlab kya private school? Matlab at that time private schools in the mountains, they would cost about 450 rupees or something per month. And you may not think 450 rupees is too much. I know that's the kind of fee you have paid to come for this show. But it is a big amount for anybody in the mountains. And he had 3 children. And all of them are now in private school. He used to drive them 6 kilometers away in a very bad road conditions and bring them to the private school every day. But kyun kiya aapne aisa? And what he answered was a very, very strange answer. He said, sir, private school में क्या है ना, मैं टीचर से पूछ सकता हूँ मेरा बालक और बालिका कैसे कर रहे हैं, क्या कर रहे हैं. मैं ये गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में कभी नहीं पूछ सकता. Now you think about it. Here is a person who is basically uneducated, asking very serious questions out of life just because his economy has improved, which he would have never done before. And he has put all his children in a private school. And why is this happening? Because someone in some place has written a guide on the trek, on the Rupkund trek. 2 lives were changing. The lives of trekkers, who are countless trekkers across a country who never imagined they could do a trek, forget a high altitude trek at 15,750 feet, coming along in a country and doing and getting to see these kind of landscape as you see on your screen. And here was a set of villagers whose lives were changing and the economy was changing. And this Rupkund trek, I want to tell you, my friends, over a period of time became India's most popular trek because someone wrote a guide on this trek many years ago, and that's the butterfly effect I'm talking about. That sometimes you do an action and it changes in a very unintended way in the lives of thousands of people all across the world. And as it did, and Rupkund, this trek, this particular trek, that it became India's largest trek with thousands of people doing it every year. Think of the number. When I went, nobody knew about this place. But I want to tell you about another story over here, which will show you this impact of this butterfly effect. You know, I want to show you a nice picture over here. I want to talk about this eco bag. You see this thing, this person carrying on the waist? This pouch is called an eco bag. Very inconsequential thing. It is just a pouch which hangs by a strap over here. Now I want to tell you a story here. When in the early years of Indiahikes, when Indiahikes had started bringing out these fabulous treks in our country, what happened is, what we started to notice, see, when we used to trek, we have our own built-in, kind of a value systems which didn't allow us to litter or do anything which was wrong with the mountains. That is, kind of built in. But as Indiahikes grew, more and more people started taking to trekking, more and more other organizations, small and big, started getting into trekking as well. But they were not too educated or familiar with how to keep things well. And we noticed that, the trails in our mountains were started to get more and more litter. And we started to get more and more litter. We realized that if this carried on, in future, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, these are going to become ecological disasters. So what do we do? Now we are an organization, we are a private organization, right? What do we do? But then we took it on ourselves, because we were the leaders of trekking in our country, we took it on ourselves that why don't we do something about it? So what we used to do is, nowadays, if you ever go to a shop in your neighborhood, you get the sugar bags, the rice bags, the white color rice bag, sugar bags, that nylon bags which you get. Those 50 kilos bags, and small and big. So we started buying these bags second hand from these shops and saying, let's use this and we'll give it out to our trekkers. If we can pick up the litter that we find on the trails are going to become cleaner over a period of time. And we got a very strange reaction when we started doing that in a group of 20 trekkers. Maybe about 5-6 of them would do it enthusiastically, but the others would not. They would find it very difficult to do it. And when we would ask them, they say, no, yaar, man nahi karta hai, ye gandagi hai, we don't want to pick up litter. And when we would try to tell them with our own earnestness that, look, this is good for society, we need to do it, the future of trekking is at stake, otherwise all these places are going to become disasters. We understand, but bending and picking up, come on, we have come for a trek, why are you asking us to pick litters? This is not what we have signed up for. So there was a lot of resistance to it. And when we noticed this resistance overhead, we were wondering what to do. Because we knew that if we didn't do something good about it, then the future of trekking, the future of our mountains is going to be in peril. And we tried a lot of things. We tried to be very persuasive, we tried to cajole people, we tried to be harsh with people and all kind of things. None of them worked. Until we came up with one thought, is that why don't we remove the stigma from picking up litter? Why don't we give something to people which will make them want to pick up litter? And that's when we designed this innocuous thing that you see on the screen, which is called the eco bag. And we designed something like this. We told people to tie it up on their waist and then see what impact it would have. And you won't believe it, it had a miraculous impact. Almost overnight, people started picking up litter from the trails that we see. They suddenly found that convenient to pick up a litter, to store litter. Not only that, this whole eco bag changed the whole aesthetics of picking up litter. And because it changed the aesthetic of picking up litter, more and more the entire group was picking up litter now, and they felt pride in picking up litter. Trekkers who were trekking with Indiahikes, wherever they were spotted because of the eco bag, and from a distance people would say, yeah, here is Indiahikes trekkers going, and they would be giving a round of applause for the work they were doing. They were appreciated everywhere they went, and people felt a lot of pride in doing something like this. It was a wonderful feeling for people when they started picking up. And then a sense of competitiveness came up. I picked up so much, how much did you pick up? And at the end of the trek, we used to pick up so much of litter wherever we went. And over a period of time, this innocuous green bag led to a huge thing where trekkers did not feel anything wrong in wearing something like this and going on a trek and happily enjoying the most beautiful sceneries. But the best thing was, even in the most pristine of setting, they did not find anything wrong in picking up litter and gathering it and playing their part in keeping these mountains in a very, very pristine and clean conditions. Today, when I'm speaking to you, over 200,000 tons of litter has been picked up from the mountains wherever we are. Wherever you find Indiahikes treks going, the mountains are actually in a very good condition where we are. There's very little trail litter you will find in a populous country, because you know what, India is considered to be a very dirty country. But wherever you go, you will find that most of these trails are largely very, very clean. Yes, there are still, you will find litter, but it is nothing compared to the amount of trekking that is happening in our country, all because of introduction of a small thing, which was the eco bag, of just handling. And so this is again a very beautiful example of how when you do something small, it can lead to a green revolution in the entire country. And not now, what happens is, thanks to this eco bag, a very nice thing is happening is, trekkers from across the country, they get in touch with us, whether they're trekking with us or no. We also want eco bags, and can you supply us? And we do supply eco bags to a lot of trekking organizations, or even single trekkers who email us and write to us, and we give it to them to do this eco bags. Thanks to this eco bags, we have been invited for so many talks to be given in various forums about how we have changed trekking, how behavioral changes have happened because of introduction of eco bags. And we have been recognized by the governments, and the governments now give us a lot of respect because of this. When they are consulting about bringing about any changes in the rules and regulations, the first organization they go to is Indiahikes because of this thing. But it all started with this one small bag. So, you know, this is again a wonderful impact of a butterfly effect, that you take one small action and the whole society gets impacted in a large way. But what I want to tell you is, you know, sometimes two stories I shared with you, they're all good stories, but there are bad stories also. So I thought I would share one bad story also with you. And this is about how we opened a trek called Kedarkanta, and what the impact of that was. As I told you when I started this talk, is that, you know, we brought about a lot of great treks in our country. And way back in 2010 maybe or so, we were thinking of why don't we have a true winter trek in our country? And when we would talk about winter trekking in our country, at that time I want to tell you, trekking was largely confined to summer months, which is May and June, or the autumn month, which is just mid of September to mid of October. That was what trekking was considered in in the Indian Himalayas, and here we were proposing to launch or to do a winter trekking in our country, and people would say, sir, आपको दिमाग खराब हो गया क्या? सर्दी में कौन ट्रैक करते हैं? यहाँ तो पानी जम जाते हैं, इतना तक बर्फ रहती है. We have बर्फ up to here and you're talking about, trekking in winter. नहीं हो सकता. And I said, why not? Trekking in winter is such a good thing, let us do it. They said, नहीं सर नहीं होगा, we cannot do winter trekking. आपका दिमाग खराब है. आप शहर से आते हो, बैंगलोर से आते हो, कुछ भी बोलते रहते हो. So, and we kept pushing at it, and we said, no, why don't we do it? And then over a period of time, considering that push that we were giving on opening a winter trek, and we looked at trails across our country. Look, winter trekking is not easy. The biggest problem is not snow actually, the biggest problem is water. Where can you go and camp in the wilderness and find water which is not frozen, which you can use for your cooking or whatever you need, or for everyday, even for your toilets and things like that. So water is a big problem. Finding a flat ground in the snow is a very big problem. Finding a suitable campsite and finding a suitable trail which you can go and navigate and not have, as they rightfully said, the snow up over your heads is also a big problem. And we looked in Himachal Pradesh, we looked in Uttarakhand, we looked in Sikkim and all kinds of places. And finally, we cottoned on to this place which is called the Kedarkanta. Now, how did this Kedarkanta come about? That's also very strange. There was this village which is at the base of this trek, which is called Sankri, which you see on your screen. From this village, we used to get a lot of people to work along with us on another trek which was about 50 kilometers away, nowhere nearby. I think one of the girls here has done that trek, which is called the Rupin Pass, but that was almost 50 kilometers away. But many of these people would come from this village, and very often we would sit in our kitchen tents and we would chat, and they would say, sir, कभी भी हमारे घर आया करो, हमारे घर के पीछे भी एक अच्छा ऊपर में एक जगह है, एक टिब्बा है, वहाँ एक मंदिर है, वहाँ हम जाएंगे, वहाँ अच्छा लगेगा आपको, वहाँ हम भेड़ बकरियाँ ले जाते हैं, we take a sheep and cattle and we graze them over there, बहुत सुंदर है, आप चलो कभी भी. And they would keep enticing, and I said, नहीं बहुत दूर है, टाइम नहीं मिलता है, यहीं तो आने में मुश्किल हो जाती है. I hope you understand Hindi, some of you. That's okay, yeah. So we would talk about it, and then over a period of time, we started figuring it out that why don't we make this place Kedarkanta, which they're talking about, into a winter trek, because the village is right there. We have the support system, and they know this, the lay of the land very well, and we can, push for camping here and there. And I started talking to these villagers over there, and they reluctantly, over a period of time, said, okay, let us see if we can make a trail over here. And this is the summit we are talking about, the Kedarkanta summit, which you see right over there, is where we said, let us do a winter trek, and we could camp in these kind of places that you see over here, find some water source also. And that's how Kedarkanta was launched as the first true winter trek in our country. And initially people, they were very, these are the kind of settings that you see over there, and people were, even though they saw it, they couldn't believe it that they could do it themselves. That normal people like you and I could do this kind of a trek. But over a period of time, over 1 or 2 years, 3 or 4 years, people slowly started trickling in, and more people started doing this trek. And this place, Kedarkanta, as more and more organizations, when they saw Indiahikes taking people, started getting into it, this place slowly started gathering momentum. The snowball effect started happening. It crossed that tipping point, and today Kedarkanta is the most popular winter trek of our country, the most popular. It is such a popular trek that you will not believe it, and that this whole village of Sankri, which nobody knew, where we used to just get our people, it was just a very quaint village. This quaint village has now become, everybody that you can think of a name of has started some business related to trekking over there. Some people have started homestays. They have borrowed money from here and there, taken expensive loans, set up lodges, homestays, hotels, cafes, restaurants. A place which is a village remote corner. When I tell you Sankri, none of you know where it is. It is on the border of Uttarakhand and Himachal. Such is that place. That place is a beehive of activity. And if you ever go there, this is what you're going to see. This is how it is. This is the whole place. That place has become a disastrous ecological zone. And just even a few weeks ago, the district forest officer said, I'm going to put a ban on trekking in Kedarkanta. Nobody must trek. What nonsense is this? What is happening over here? Because if you went in the last week of December, over there, at any point of time, that crowd over there would be more than the Mall Road of Shimla. At least 2,000 to 3,000 people are just hanging around in a small stretch of 1 kilometer. People are just camping wherever they can, in an open spot, under a garage, over here, anywhere. That whole place is now this thing. In the middle of the night, if you see people going to Kedarkanta, you will find the lights as you see on top of your heads. Those kind of lights, headlamps, there are about 2,000 headlamps going up the trail. And that's how what Sankri has become today. And that's because somewhere we decided a winter trek had to happen. And that is also an unintended consequence of some of the actions that we take. So what I want to tell you is that, this butterfly effect is everywhere. Sometimes consciously. See, the thing is that if you go to Sankri village now, they will not know where the beginning was, because this happened almost a decade ago. But there is this beginning because we know it, because we have seen it happening. All of these things, we know that there's been a beginning. That's where our intention was. And when we took actions, when we started promoting these treks, or when we started talking about the Rupkund trek, or bringing about that eco bags, or whatever it is, we knew these are the actions that we are taking. But the far-reaching consequences that we have, some of it we knew would happen like this, but many of it we didn't know would happen the way it turned out to be. But this butterfly effect is such a beautiful thing, because it impacts society, it impacts people in such a big way. When you take some intention you have, when you have some actions behind it, and then the effect starts taking place. Right now, we are not very surprised, because most state governments, they know about this butterfly effect. They know what happens when an organization like Indiahikes comes there. So we always non-stop get invited by governments of various regions. Right now, even as I'm speaking to you, the Tamil Nadu government has called us and said, why don't we come here and open more trekking trails, because we know it will change the economy of this whole place, and a lot of people will be served. So state governments across the country will call you, because they know that once that intention and action takes place, it does have this beautiful butterfly effect which happens, sometimes good, sometimes not so good, but it does happen. And that's what I wanted to share with a few stories with you. Thank you so much, all of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, now is your opportunity to come up with your intriguing questions.
Sir, I would like to ask you a question.
Where are you?
Here, sir.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sir, due to the Indiahikes, people are now loving the hiking. So when you founded the Indiahikes, how was the initial response from the people, and how you handled that?
See, trekking was very new in our country. So as usual, our job initially was more to promote trekking rather than to talk about Indiahikes. So we never talked about Indias, we talked about the treks. So it was the trekking that we were worried. So the Rupkund trek, we talked about the trek. The Rupin Pass, we talked about the trek. It was not about Indiahikes as such. And even now we take our role as more of the promoter of the sport rather than the promoter of the organization or the brand, which is why we do what we do. We are more interested in to take the trekking forward in the right way rather than trekking ourselves forward. I don't know whether that answered your question, but roughly, to give you a hint.
I loved your speech. So, in that last winter trek, you told that it became an ecological disaster. So, but like the people of Sankri, their economy boosted, and like a lot of people are enjoying that trek. So, why was that necessarily a disaster?
See, economy cannot come at the cost of everything. This is anywhere in the world, yes, growth in economy is required, but it cannot come at the cost of the mountains, at the cost of the environment, or cost of society. When that happens, the imbalance happens in society. So we need to be very careful and mindful about how we have growth. So even at Indiahikes, when we see such large growth, we pull out of that trek. Very consciously we pull out of a trek. Either we go through a new route or we promote other regions. So it's very important that you talk about new treks to do, new places to go, rather than funnel people through one location. That is disastrous. You saw in Kedarnath, no, what happened? That whole place got damaged.
The problem, did people start littering, or was the problem just that too many people were going to?
Too many people. It's just not litter. See, litter is on the face of it. That whole place, it gets trampled. The forest gets smashed. The whole, that whole Sankri village cannot take that much number of people. So there's a water problem. There's a, waste management problem. Everything. I mean, it's a huge mess.
Thank you. Okay.
It's like if you ever go to Manali, or if you go to Shimla, and you'll know what we are talking about. I mean, that these places cannot sustain the number of people which goes there.
I'm Asmita Tripathi from MTech. So basically my question is, as you said, that small changes and big impacts, butterfly effect. But while we are making these small changes, sometimes, like for example, I did one trek, 2 treks with Indiahikes, and then I did with multiple other organizations, I won't name them. But then I saw a difference of culture. Like for example, Indiahikes said no packaged food, because that is, when we are buying, we are littering, ultimately, generating more waste. But the other organization gave us packaged foods on every morning. So we saw that shift of culture. And this is happening, only Indiahikes I can see that is doing that change of consciously trekking. So don't you feel alone in this big, I mean, already there is a big industry, small changes, and everyone else is littering. So don't you feel alone in this, path? So that is my question.
Ashmita, not really, because we have seen our impact in a much bigger way. What happens now? I know few of the people will hand over this packaged goods and things like that, and Indiahikes is not. But there is a kind of constant pressure on them to live up to the Indiahikes standard, because people, when they trek with them, always keep telling them, Indiahikes mein aisa nahi hoti hai. I'm sure you would have done that as well. So that pressure is always on them, and that's why over a period of time they get smarter and better. They're saying, if we don't do this, then all our trekkers are going to go to Indiahikes in any case. So they get better over a period of time, not immediately, but they do get, and that's good for the country, that's good for trekking.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Sir, this is Ashok. I have got connected with your story because I have been a provider in Andhra, in hill station in nearby Araku. So there we seen this type of situation like Sankri. A new place, a new hill has founded in during the Corona, and some has posted in the social media, and it got really hyped, and people got crowded there. So that type of story, I also got connected there as a provider there. So my question here is that if we, how can we control these type of situations in hand? If we, does there any tips you can guide or suggestions like how we can collaborate with the government, because they are running campaigns like Swachh Bharat and all those things are there, and also how to much more get connected in those areas with the local people or with the government. So if from your learnings, can you pass something that if at all some new places come into the rural areas, we would be much more conscious around that as a provider or as an enabler on a. I did this as side hustle and during Corona, but it has been a hype there at that time.
I just what you're trying to say. See, there is very little option. You have to collaborate with the government, and you have to take them as partners in this whole thing. And the government also needs to take you as a partner. So you cannot run these programs stealthily without not telling the government that we are running this program in our country. But in our country, there's a bit of a problem that most trekking organizations, especially small, they don't want to interact with the government. They feel very scared of the government. They feel the government is, government takes a fee if you want to enter the forest, and they don't want to pay that so much of fees. They want to show only a little bit of fees or whatever. So these things are going on. So what happens, the government also doesn't feel inclined to help them. But what we have seen is that in our partnerships with the government is very open to these kind of partnerships. They want to help, and that's what happens with us. So we are always constantly in touch and partnering with the government. So my answer to you is that you have to partner with the government. You cannot keep them aside in these kind of endeavors. And two, you have to set the right example yourself on how to do it. So whether your participants like it or not, you have to impose certain rules on them which will imply if they're trekking along with you. Whether it is a trekking or whether it is a cinema hall, those rules do apply, and you need to be very strong in enforcing it also.
So I have a supplementary question to what he asked. So are there regulatory bodies in this trekking arena, trekking sports? Because a lot of what you said is organizations like you do a lot of things yourself to clean up the place.
There are, sir, there are, but unfortunately they cannot enforce it. They find it very difficult to enforce. There are associations, there are all of those things, tourism associations, but they find it very difficult. There are guidelines given by the government and everything, but in our country, enforcing these guidelines are very difficult. So it again comes down to individual this thing and some hard rules set by the government which can help to do it. So the government again has to wake up, and this thing, earlier government never bothered about it, but now they are doing it. Things have changed since 10 years at least, that's what we are saying.
So, what were the challenges that you faced while working with the Ministry of Tourism? For these hikes?
Quite a bit actually, quite a bit. Initially the Ministry of Tourism would not take you too seriously. And you're small, right? Nobody takes you too seriously. But over a period of time, they not only now take you seriously, they think that you are their partners. And now it has come to that stage that ministry treats you like royalty, because if they know that if Indiahikes doesn't go, then this whole place is not going to change. So it's been a gradual shift. But I know the initial days जब मैं बैठकर सामने बैठा था, वो बाबू कब आएंगे, and now it doesn't happen. So I'm a little happy with that.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to call Arjun Subedar on stage to felicitate Arjun Majumdar, sir, to express our gratefulness.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.